So yeah, tonight's class is a 60-minute roll and release. You need your ball, a strap, and I've got the yoga bolster for comfort. You actually might not need it. And we've got a yoga block. So we're just going to actually start in a seated meditation, guys. Sit somewhere comfortable. You can sit up on a block if you'd like. And go ahead and close the eyes. So in this practice, we're going to work with the ball and with the block to move across what's called the superficial back line, which is really just this connection of tissues that runs from the sole of the feet, up the back of the legs, through the spine, through a little bit through the glutes, and through the neck and the skull. And it's a functional line, which means it's linked in movement. When we move, it will tension to support our posture. And it also means that if there's something a little off in our posture, whenever that line tensions, it may be tensioning constantly in the same place. So as we progressively work across the line, we release the whole thing. We bring a little bit of balance back into our body. See if you can really start to settle the breath, as though your belly and your front ribs get stiller. We call it more quiet. And you almost feel that some of the tissues that are touched are expanded by the breath in the back body, the lower back, back ribs. Please bring your hands into Anjali Mudra. And we open the practice with an Om. Inhale. Gently open your eyes. Because we're moving this back line, we're going arches of the feet all the way around to the skull, we're actually going to start standing. So can you go ahead and grab your ball? You can come close to the wall if you need that balance. And quite simply, you're just going to put the foot on the ball and begin to roll back and forth. I've got a little bit more of a squishy ball, so it has less feedback, it's less intense. If yours is a little bit more of a tennis ball, just go soft. So all you're doing is rolling out the sole of the foot. We won't be here for too long. You might like to get right up into the ball of the foot there. You might find a really tense or tender spot where you actually want to stay and hang out and stomp on it. We'll just be here a little bit longer in this foot. See if now as you go, you can move around and actually specifically find where you might be quite tense, where you get a little bit of feedback from that ball. And once you've found a spot that's tense, we're going to go ahead and take a forward fold. So I'm happy to forward fold off the wall. You might prefer to use the wall. If you're off the wall, find the bit that was intense. Take the feet out to hip distance, soften the knees and bow here. And the only adaptation, if that was a little bit too much for you free, is just to come back and rest your butt against the wall. And you can bend the knees as much as you need. Just really settle in here. And see if you can again let the breath move towards the back body. Please notice the things that support you. Push into them as you slowly make your way up to standing. And then step the foot off the ball for a moment and just stand steady. Notice how you feel. Might want to close the eyes. Notice the difference across the foot, the back of the leg, the back of the pelvis, maybe even the lower back. And then as you're ready, let's go ahead and swap to the other side. So again, just rolling that ball across the base of the foot. I've got quite a squishy lacrosse ball, so I'm happy to really push into it. If you have something more firm, it's okay to go softer. And again, if you find a spot that feels a bit like a pressure point here, you're welcome to. You don't have to. Foot's a little bit more tender than some of the other spots we're going to do. But if you find a pressure point that you're happy to hang out on, you can stay there, push into it. Then go ahead and roll into this foot a little bit more now with the intention of finding maybe a pressure point, maybe just a bit of your foot that feels kind of bunched up, or maybe like you don't have that much awareness there. And once you've found that spot, again, we're going to go ahead and take a forward fold. Remember, you can rest your butt against the wall if that gives you a little bit more support. Bend the knees as much as you need to feel safe in the lower back. Please gently find support, push through the hands, the legs a little. Slowly come now down to a kneeling position on your mat. You'll need your strap or a dressing gown and cord, whatever you've got, a little bit later. But we're going to start now, so we've done the feet, we're going to start to move into the calves and the hamstrings, the back of the legs. So you're going to take this ball and place it right behind your knee. It doesn't matter which leg it is. And all you're going to do is just gently roll side to side. And so there's two sensations that we can get when we're moving with the ball like this. One of them is that you might find a really sharp, kind of yucky sensation, or delicious if you like it, and that's usually a little bit of a pressure point. And I usually, when I find one of those, will stay there for 5 or 6 breaths. The other sensation that you sometimes find, especially when we're rubbing sideways across the muscle fibers here, is almost like a bumpy, ridgy feeling. And so the bumpy, ridgy feeling indicates more a bunching of muscle tissues, like a little bit of stiffness in the muscle there. And with that one, instead of staying still, we continue to shear sideways over it. It breaks up the fibers for us. And you're just going to slowly begin moving down the calf, the hamstring here. So you'll move it down an inch. Just go a little lower. And then do the same thing, shear side to side. If you find a sharp spot, that indicates a little bit more of a pressure point. Place of tension in that fascia and the connective tissue I was talking about. If it's more ridgy, that indicates congestion in the muscles. And you keep rolling, shearing side to side if it's the muscle congestion. And then keep moving down. You go another inch down. Don't worry if the ball slips out or it's not quite in the right position and you need to adjust it. Sometimes that just happens. And then the last spot we're going is not quite down on the ankle, it's still on the calf muscle there. So you find the bottom of the calf muscle, work that spot. You might be a little closer to the top of the hamstring here. You might find that the pressure point is more in the hamstring than it is in the calf, and that's okay, you can focus on that too. Okay, when you're ready, remove the ball. We'll use it to the other side, but come onto your back, please. Take a hold of the strap. Lay yourself down, and you're going to go ahead and just place the strap over the ball of the foot. We do want the other leg long here, as long as your lower back's okay. If your lower back's under a lot of pressure, it's okay to bend it, but let's go for long if we can. And then our goal is to keep this leg pretty straight today. Sometimes I'll say, go ahead, bend your knee, but today we want it straight so that it pulls up into the calf and we stay in the hamstring. We'll be here for about 2 to 3 minutes, so go ahead, close your eyes. And see if you can find this happy mid-place where the leg feels the sensation of the shape, feels the opening of the leg, without it being that much pressure that you couldn't stay or you're shaking. And now let the breath again soften into the back body. Ribs and the belly get softer, more quiet. You feel more of the breath in the lower back, back shoulder blades, back lungs. Settling here into the mat. Please gently bend the knee to remove the strap. Let the legs stretch out and just lay for a moment, noticing how you feel. Notice the difference between the two sides. Please gently make your way back up to seated. Go ahead, grab your ball. And we'll start rolling out the other side. So the ball goes up nice and high behind the back of the knee. And you begin rolling side to side. Again, two experiences here. You might find the real sharpness of a pressure point. And I'll stay on a pressure point for a couple of breaths before I move on. The pressure point tends to be a little bit more bunching of connective tissue. Whereas the other experience you can have is a bunching of the muscles. It feels a little bit more ridgy, bumpy, lumpy. And with that experience, you keep shearing side to side, and you can apply, don't go too crazy, because remember we're doing yin yoga, it's not like a deep tissue massage moment. But you can apply a little bit of pressure if you're doing the muscular release, a little bit of extra push in as you roll side to side. It will help to break up any of those bunched up fibers. The pace with which we move down our leg is really up to you. You might find there's a spot where you don't have much of an experience, and so you want to move on quickly, move the ball down the leg a little bit. Or you might find that there's a spot where you're really finding a lot of tension, a lot of build-up, and you want to stay there a bit longer. That's You know, right now I've got that. There's a lot of build up for me in the back of the knee here. So whenever you're ready, you know, just take your own time. You pick the ball up and move it an inch down the calf. And begin that side to side rolling again. Again, moving down another inch down the muscle. So that you can stop, find stillness if you hit a pressure point. Find your last spot. Move down to the bottom of the calf muscle. And let's go ahead, make our way onto our back, again with your strap. Strap over the arch of the leg long if you can. And this time, as long as it's not causing any lower back pain, even if your leg's way out long, can we aim to have it straight? Because when we bend, it does take a little bit of pressure off, but it mostly takes the stretch out of the calf, and we're aiming to keep that. About 2 to 3 minutes here. Please gently remove the strap. And again, lay yourself flat. Maybe close the eyes and just notice how you feel. Alright, go ahead, open your eyes. You're going to need your block for this last little bit, and if you've got a foam roller, have your foam roller close by, but stay on your back with your ball. And you're going to take the ball and place it underneath your left butt cheek. And then let the right hip relax back down. We're pretty relaxed here. And all you're going to do is begin to just roll the ball around on that left butt cheek. You're literally just kind of exploring. And what you're looking for is the same thing that we were looking for earlier, either a pressure point, a really sharp spot, where you'll stay anywhere from 3 to 5 breaths. Or it may be a particularly ridgy part of the butt cheek where there's a bunching of muscles, and in that case, if you feel the ball kind of moving across a bump, you want to stay there and really roll the ball quite firmly side to side across that spot. So keep moving around. Every time you find a pressure point, you stop, stay for a few breaths. And there's no right or wrong spot here. You can explore the whole butt cheek. But for the purposes of the superficial back line, do take some time in the next minute or so to focus on the diagonal line that goes from the sit bone up towards the center lower back, as though you drew a diagonal line across the butt cheek there. That's the ligament that we're interested in for this back line. And so you just want to check, maybe that ligament has a bit of tension in it, and that we've given a little bit of extra attention to any pressure points that may be across that diagonal line. Okay, so keep exploring for about 30 seconds here. If you haven't already, roll that diagonal line from the sit bone up towards the center lower back or the sacrum. And if you find a particularly sharp pressure point there, can you stay with the ball on that point? And you're going to keep that, the pressure of the ball in that point, and go ahead and lift the left leg. And just open it out to the side and bring it up to the center. So we're just changing the pressure on that point. Open and close. And after you've done that a few times, then you're going to draw circles out through the knee. Again, just changing the way we apply pressure to the ball. And circle a few times both ways. Then go ahead and remove the ball. Take the left heel onto the right thigh for a figure 4 stretch. You can stay here like this, or draw the thigh back towards the body and just close the eyes and settle in. We'll be here about 2 minutes. Let the breath settle into the back body, back shoulders, lower back. Please gently release. And go ahead and place the ball in the other butt cheek. Again, beginning to explore, rolling around, finding any tension in that glute. So with that ball, you're more than welcome here. You can explore the whole glute. Explore any pressure points there. Just knowing to pay a little bit of extra attention, a little bit of particular attention to the diagonal line that cuts from the sit bone, the bottom outer corner of the butt cheek, up through towards the sacrum, the center of the lower back. That there's a ligament that crosses that diagonal line that makes up this superficial back line. And we're looking to release any tension that might have built across that ligament. So give yourself about another minute here. Of course, please go ahead, explore the whole butt cheek, but some extra attention across the diagonal line. And seeing if, as you explore this ligament, if there is any parts of it that are particularly very, very sharp. And when you next find that sharp place, you'll let the right foot now float up in the air. And just gently open and close it. Keeping the ball pinned to the ground. And once you've done a few of those big circles with that knee, a few one direction, and a few the other direction. Before removing the ball and placing the right heel across the left thigh, either staying here or lifting up into your figure four. About 2 minutes here. Please gently begin to unwind. Let the legs rest. Maybe close the eyes, just notice how you feel. Okay, so you've got a few options for the next move. If you've got a relatively firm block, use that. Or if you're lucky enough to have a foam roller, you can use that. So I'll just show you the block placement. It goes between the shoulder blades, long ways across the body on its middle side. Now for me, I'm quite comfortable in my neck just to let my head tilt back. You can see my bun kind of hangs out on the floor there. So I'm pretty relaxed doing that. If that's too low for you, you just use a cushion, a bolster, a book, whatever you've got, just to lift the head a little bit. So that's your option with the block. If you're lucky enough to have a foam roller, you do exactly the same thing. Put the foam roller between the shoulder blades and let yourself rest back. Now, how you take the legs is up to you. I'm very comfortable in a butterfly shape. You might find that a little stiff in your hips, and so you want to take the legs long. Or you might prefer to leave the knees bent. Now, before we fully settle in, we're going to try and clear the shoulder blades off the equipment we're using a little bit, so that you get a little bit of pressure across the spine and the muscles of the spine, the erector spinae, which is part of this superficial back line. So we're applying pressure now to help them release any tension. So you take one hand up in the air above the shoulder, then draw it across the body, all the way across, almost like you're giving yourself a big hug, and hopefully you feel the shoulder blade clear off the back a little bit. If you're on a block, maybe you've been able to pull the shoulder blade off the block. And then take that elbow wide and let that arm rest down. And do it with the other arm, take it up towards the roof. Pull it all the way across the body like you're giving yourself a hug. The shoulder blade gets drawn away from the spine. And then place the elbow wide. And just feel, if it feels like your shoulder blades have pulled wide off the block or the foam roller and they've sat out to the side, you can stay. Or if you didn't quite get there, do it again. Just take the arm up, hug it across, try and pull the shoulder blade off the back, and then pull the elbow wide to keep that shoulder blade out wide. And see if you can again here breathe into the back shoulders, the back ribs. Reduce the breath in the belly. And let it settle more towards the ground, more towards the support of the equipment. Please gently notice the things that support you. Adjust the legs to be supportive, the elbows. And sit up just enough to roll either your foam roller or your block up to the side, lay on your back. And now again, please place either the block on its flat middle side in the skull, just so its front corner is there at the base of the skull. Or if you would prefer, and you can do that with a book of course, if you would prefer you can place the foam roller in the back of the skull. And going very gently here, it's tempting to overdo it a bit here to go quite firm, but go gentle. Just begin to roll your head side to side. Just releasing some of the connective tissue around the skull. Whenever you're ready, please go ahead, release your block or foam roller, whatever's behind the head, and place yourself comfortably ready for your final relaxation. Palms face up. Close the eyes. And let that whole back line, from the soles of the feet, the back of the calves, hamstrings, the ligament that runs diagonally through the butt, muscles that ribbon up the spine and around the skull, all soften into the mat. Settle into your mat. is become aware of your fingers and your toes. Roll gently to one side. Then roll gently to seated, hands in Anjali Mudra. Gentle Om to close our practice. Breathe in. Namaste.